Good morning, beloveds. Yeah, the light's just going to be weird no matter what I do. Okay, I am sitting in my car because my car was facing the sun. I turned the car on, which means I have my seatbelt on because my car will yell at me if I don't. But I am running 24 minutes late, but I am doing it for a good reason. We had our Montgomery Food Bank food market today, and it runs from 8 to 10. I got here at a little after 7, about 10 after, 15 after 7. There were already cars lined up, which means we're done. We are done. We have been done for, we're in the final cleanup stages. At this point, if anybody else shows up, we found out where another one was so that we could send them on. So, and there's nothing quite like doing these food markets. I can honestly say I wish there wasn't a need for them, but it is one of the easiest ways that we can give back. One of the easiest ways that we can support our community. And so here we are, and we do it 4 times a year, and we intentionally do this one right before Thanksgiving. So, and they say thank you to us, and we say thank you to them, because they're providing an opportunity for us to serve, which is, that is what we do. So, it is November 21st. Our title is Identity. Our Bible quote is, "Be ye therefore perfect, even as your Father which is in heaven is perfect." And that is from Matthew 5:48. And let's see. There is a pattern of perfection at the center of everything. This, the saints and sages of the ages have told us. There is, as the Platonists taught, a prototype of perfection at the center of every form. It is this spiritual prototype It is this spiritual prototype with which the mind should identify itself. For this is the Father in heaven within us. Nothing has ever violated the integrity of this inner kingdom. It exists forever in the bosom of God, and we are in God even as God is in us. Today, I consciously identify myself with the Supreme Present that inhabits eternity and finds a dwelling place at the center of my soul. By some deep inner spiritual realization, I penetrate the mask of separation and discover the unity of all life. I identify myself with this unity, finding Christ within and knowing that Christ is God's. I recognize my union with all the power, all the presence, and all the life that there is. From the Science of Mind text, healing is not creating a perfect idea nor a perfect body. It is revealing an idea that is already perfect. And that is from the textbook, page 212. All right. So the month of gratitude, we are going through the things that we are grateful for. And today, what Ernest is talking about is who we are, where we come from. As they said in one of the practitioner classes previous to mine, who's your daddy? And I think every minister has done that talk. Every minister has done that talk. Who are you? Who do you think you are? It's a core of what we do as ministers to support our congregations in realizing where they come from, who they are, and what comes next. So, what is your identity? Let me give you a signpost, because I'm not going to tell you who you are. That's your job to tell you who you are. I'm just going to give you a guidepost on where to look. And Matthew is going to start it off by telling ye, be ye therefore perfect, even as your Father which is in heaven is perfect. Bear in mind, perfect means whole. It doesn't mean flawless. It means whole. All parts of you, even the parts that you might not prefer. So, there is a pattern of perfection at the center of everything. Dr. Goswami talks about the 5 layers, and the ultimate layer for him, he calls it the bliss body, because that is the God center. That is the perfect blueprint. That is God's idea of you. And that is the center of perfection. That is God's idea. And then it filters down through the layers into the mortal coil that we are by, and it adds on things. So the pattern of perfection at the center of everything is God's idea. Spirit's idea, if that falls easier on your ears. This, the saints of ages have told us, and go and read all of the spiritual literature. For the most part, we call it the golden thread. All the spiritual literature around the world says the same thing. There is, as the Platonists have taught, a prototype of perfection at the center of every form. That's God's. The bliss body. That is God's idea of who you are. And so when you are struggling with who you are, that's where you want to go. You want to go back to God's idea of who you are. And remember that God doesn't judge. And remember what God is. God is love. God is energy. God is creation. God is movement. So these are all of the ideas that God has about you. Love, truth, beauty, wisdom. Those are all God's ideas about you. It is this spiritual prototype, or like I said, Dr. Goswami calls it the bliss body. I just love that idea. The bliss body with which the mind should identify itself. Forget what the material world tells you. God bless you. Don't even listen to the advertisers. As a woman, the standards of beauty are ridiculous. I will never live up to them. It wouldn't be healthy for me to live up to them. So I'm going to go back to God's idea of me, which is happy, healthy, and whole. Notice how I started with happy. All right. For this is the Father in heaven within us. Nothing has ever violated the integrity of this inner kingdom. This is what Reverend Jesse calls the place that nothing has ever been wrong, because nothing can be. God's idea. It exists forever in the bosom of God, and we are in God even as God is in us. So we have to remember where we came from. Where we came from and who we are. Today, I consciously identify myself with the supreme presence that inhabits eternity and finds a dwelling place at the center of my soul. That dwelling place is there. It's my job to go find it. Where is the dwelling place of nothing that has ever been wrong? Where is God's idea of me? Because that's what I want to find, and that's what I want to live from. That's what I want to know from. I want to know from God's idea of me, not anybody else's idea of me. Certainly nobody outside of me's idea of me. By some deep inner spiritual realization, that sounds like prayer, treatment, meditation, spiritual practice, I penetrate the mask of separation and discover the unity of all life. And that's how you do it. Meditation, prayer, treatment, spiritual practice, whatever it takes. Go sit in nature. Go to a park. Sit amongst the trees. Listen to the wind blow and get through that illusion of separation. I identify myself with this unity, finding Christ within, and knowing that Christ is God's. And that's possessive. God's is possessive. So Christ belongs to God, and we come pre-installed with that Christ consciousness. It is already in our software. And the only password we need is love. And we come with the password. We just get talked out of that password. So identify with that Christ consciousness, because it belongs to God. It is already installed in you. It is God's idea of you. The Christ consciousness is God's idea of you. I recognize my union with all the power, all the presence, and all the life there is. And in those quiet moments, in that still small voice, that's where you're going to find it. Healing is not creating a perfect idea or a perfect body. Okay? It is revealing an idea that is already perfect. And that's from the textbook, 212. And that's what Ernest says. When Ernest talks about healing, he absolutely talks about revealing the perfection that's already there. It's like, we don't have to get rid of anything. We just have to reveal what we already know is there. Ernest talks a lot about healing, and that is the kernel that all of his healing work and talk and starts from, is knowing that you are already perfect. Your body is set to do what it needs to do and can do what it needs to do, even through all of the material chaos and noise that's going on around us. And that's healing of the mind, and healing of the emotions, and healing of the body, and healing of the spirit, and healing of the soul. And it's gorgeous and amazing and possible for anybody. And the place to start is love. Love of yourself, love of each other. And that's why we do things like we did today, that food market. That is us loving each other. So, and I just got distracted by the dragonfly that flew right by my windshield. So, I can see that the parking lot behind me is empty, so I am going to go home and have a wonderful day. It was relatively cool, but not too cold, which was good. It was almost the perfect temperature for this, and it started out foggy, so we had it wasn't until like the last 30 minutes that we needed the sunscreen, which I put on. I've gotten burned at these things before. So, who you are is God's idea of you. Who you are is that bliss body. Who you are is that Christ consciousness. You are a beloved child of Spirit, in whom Spirit is well pleased. You live in that grace always and forever, because there is no time in God. So, do something loving for yourself, do something kind for yourself, do something compassionate for yourself. And if that looks like serving others like we did today, that's a good thing. But I'm going to tell you every day to do something loving, kind, and compassionate. Because I do believe what the Dalai Lama said. If your compassion does not include yourself, it's not complete. So, if the password is love, the first place to install it is right here. Right within you. Alright. Open your windows. Get a breath of fresh air. Do something that engages your mind and your body. The leaves are still in the process of changing. The tree right in front of me right now is kind of this green and yellow mix. It's really beautiful. So, go out and enjoy the weather, because we got a cold front coming, especially if you're in my area. But, yes, open the windows of your soul. Allow the breath of heaven to remind you that you live in heaven now. I've been distracted by the nature that I can see outside of all of these windows. So, now I'm going to go home and love on my fur babies. You have a wonderful day. Know that Reverend David will be on with you around 5 p.m. today, and I will be back with you at 9 a.m., and then we will have a rockin' service for you. We've got 2 more days in the two more Sundays in the I Am series, and Jesse's been really good, but Jesse's always good. We know this. All right, beloveds, have a wonderful day.